Welcome, wanderer. You've found your way back to Tales for Tired Eyes, where stories glow low and the night listens closely. Tonight, we step across the threshold of time, not into grand histories or dusty lectures, but into the small, strange corners, the overlooked, the unbelievable, the almost too odd to be true. These are not the stories that filled your school books. These are the forgotten footnotes, the accidents of fate, the echoes of kings, and chickens, and dancing plagues. Some are beautiful, some are unsettling, and all of them are real. So lay back, let the world fall quiet, and drift with me through 80 of the strangest and most fascinating moments in human history, whispered gently from the folds of time. This is not a timeline. This is a dream made of facts. And it begins now. Cleopatra's timeline twist. Close your eyes and picture the pyramids of Giza, those towering tombs rising from the sands of Egypt. Now imagine Cleopatra, the last pharaoh, reclining in her palace, speaking Greek, charming Roman emperors. You might think she walked beneath those pyramids, but the truth? Cleopatra lived closer to the invention of the iPhone than to the construction of the Great Pyramid. By the time she ruled, the pyramids were ancient ruins, crumbling, mysterious, already older than most civilizations would ever become. History folds in strange ways, like a scroll too often rewound. Number 2. Alexander's slow death. They called him a god-king, Alexander the Great, the world conqueror, the builder of cities, the boy from Macedonia who broke empires. But his end was silent. No swords, no glory, just a sudden illness, and then stillness. His body, they say, didn't decompose for 6 whole days. Some believe he had a rare condition that mimicked death, paralyzing him whilst his heart still beat slowly inside. If true, the conqueror of the known world may have been buried alive, a god entombed in sleep, not death. A final irony for the man who couldn't be stopped. Number 3. The battle won by cats. In 525 BCE, the Persians invaded Egypt, but instead of charging with swords alone, they carried cats. The Egyptians, who revered felines as sacred, refused to fight. They surrendered rather than risk harming a single whiskered soul. The Persians won a bloodless victory, not by force, but by feline diplomacy. It may be the only battle in history won by holding up a kitten. Number 4. The dead Pope on trial. In Rome, the year was 897. The cathedral echoed with scandal, and in the centre of the church sat a corpse propped on a throne. Pope Formosus, long dead, was put on trial by his successor. They dressed the body in sacred robes, pointed fingers and shouted accusations, and when it was over, they cut off his fingers and tossed it in the river. It was called Cadaver Synod, and in a world of divine ritual, it was madness made liturgy. Number 5. Dancing to death. It began with one woman. She stepped into the square in Strasbourg and began to dance. No music played, no festival called. She just danced. Within hours, more had joined her. within days, dozens. They could not stop. Their feet bled, some collapsed, some even died. The year was 1518, and no one knew why. Historians still debate whether it was mass hysteria, poisoned bread, or something darker. But for one long summer, a city waltzed itself into history and into graves. Number 6. Nero's rotating palace. Emperor Nero, tyrant, performer, legend, had a dining room that rotated like the heavens. It turned slowly, mimicking the stars, powered by hidden machinery and servants. Petals rained from the ceiling, perfume misted the air. Guests dined under a spinning sky, while Nero whispered poetry and watched the room spin around him. A madman's dream, or the earliest carousel. In Rome, even luxury turned on its axis. Number 7. The Oracle's High. High on the cliffs of Delphi, the oracle sat, her eyes half-lidded, her voice strange. For centuries, kings and warriors climbed the mountainside for her riddled prophecies. But modern science brought a surprising truth. The cave beneath her temple vented ethylene gas, a natural sedative and hallucinogen. She wasn't possessed by the gods. She was high on geology, and even Apollo, it seems, had help from below. Number 8. The flood that shaped a story. In 1922, archaeologist Leonard Woolley unearthed layers of silt and pottery near the ancient city of Abraham's city, and between them, a layer of clean clay, untouched by time. It was evidence of a great flood, not worldwide, but massive. Could this have been the inspiration for Noah's Ark? An ancient storm, remembered and rewritten, turned into myth, and finally, scripture. When earth and sky collapse, stories are born. Number 9. Julius Caesar's stab count. Julius Caesar was stabbed 23 times on the floor of the Senate, but only one wound was fatal. The rest were hesitation, anger, fear. The blades of friends unsure of their treason. He died not from the knife, but from betrayal. Sometimes it's the look in the eyes, not the blade in the back, that stops a heart. Number 10. The city that sank itself. Heraklion, a grand Egyptian port once filled with temples and gold, vanished beneath the waves. For centuries it was believed to be myth, a local Atlantis, until divers found its ruins underwater, perfectly preserved in the silt of the Nile Delta. Heraklion didn't sink in a single day, but in slow ruin, greed, erosion, earthquakes, and the weight of forgotten gods. Even cities, like men, can drown quietly. Number 11. Emperor Elagabalus's pet leopard. At 16, Elagabalus became Emperor of Rome. He wore women's clothes, married a man, and hosted dinner parties with wild leopards roaming beneath the tables, not chained, not tamed, just watching. He once served guests fake food while hiding the real feast for his favourites. Power, to him, was a performance. But the Senate didn't laugh. At just 18, he was assassinated, thrown into the Tiber. Rome remembers its emperors, and some only for the echoes of their chaos. Number 12. The Emperor and the Rabbits. Napoleon Bonaparte, conqueror of Europe, master of strategy, once planned a grand rabbit hunt to celebrate victory. Hundreds of rabbits were released from cages, but they didn't run. They turned. Expecting food, they charged the emperor and his men in a furry, unstoppable wave. Napoleon fled in his carriage, chased by bunnies. Even empires can be humbled by a well-fed army. 13. Caligula's horse. Caligula adored his horse in Citatus. He gave it a marble stall, a jewelled collar, and a personal staff. He even planned to make it a consul of Rome, the highest political office, just to mock the Senate. Was it madness? A joke? Or a warning? In Caligula's Rome, even horses could climb the ladder of power, so long as they neighed in Latin. Number 14. The king who banned coffee. In 17th century Mecca, coffee houses were centres of thought, conversation, and occasionally sedition. One sultan, fearing rebellion, declared coffee illegal. He believed it stimulated dangerous ideas and banned it under threat of death. Cups were smashed, beans burned, but the people missed their morning brew, so the ban faded, and rebellion brewed anyway. Number 15. Ivan the Terrible's dreadful son. In a moment of rage, Tsar Ivan IV, known as Ivan the Terrible, struck his own son in the head. The blow was fatal. He wept beside the body for hours, his face twisted in horror. The image was later painted, the father cradling the broken skull of his heir, red spreading across the floor. Even tyrants regret the echoes of their anger. Number 16. The king who bathed in gold. Mansa Musa, ruler of the Mali Empire, was the richest man who ever lived. His gold could bend economies. When he travelled to Cairo on pilgrimage, he gave away so much wealth that the city's value of gold plummeted for a decade. He built mosques with jewel-crusted walls, libraries filled with sacred scrolls, but his kingdom faded into sand. Gold, after all, cannot preserve glory, only glitter in its ruin. Number 17. The Queen who faked her death. In 1590, Queen Elizabeth I was rumoured to have died suddenly as a child. One version of the legend claims she was replaced by a boy double raised to preserve the monarchy. They point to her refusal to marry, her wigs, her high collars. Of course, it's likely a tale, but the Virgin Queen's secrets remain sealed in tomb and time. Number 18. The Sultan's Elephant Army. In the 16th century, Sultan Babur of India marched into battle with hundreds of armoured war elephants, their tusks sharpened and plated with steel. Each beast carried a small tower on its back, with arches atop. When they charged, the earth trembled. It wasn't just a show of force, it was a message that the jungle had teeth. Number 19. The French king who thought he was glass. King Charles V of France suffered a strange delusion. He believed his body was made of fragile glass. He wore padded clothes to avoid breaking. He refused to be touched. Once he sat perfectly still for hours, terrified he would shatter. Power didn't protect him, nor did madness hide from the crown, and the court pretended as though nothing were broken. Number 20. The monarch buried in a parking lot. For centuries, no one knew where King Richard III had been buried. Some said his bones had been scattered in the river, but in 2012, beneath a modern car park in Leicester, archaeologists uncovered a skeleton twisted by scoliosis and pierced by battle wounds. It was him, a king replaced to myth, found beneath a painted white line marked Reserved. Number 21. The Pirate Queen of the South China Sea. She began as a courtesan, but when her pirate husband died, Qing Shi took command of his fleet. By 1805, she led over 70,000 pirates, more than the Spanish Armada. She enforced her own code, deserters lost their ears, and thieves were executed. When China, Britain, and Portugal tried to stop her, she negotiated her retirement, wealthy and untouched. She ran the seas like a queen, and retired like one too. Number 22. The Emu War. In 1932, Australia declared war on emus. The flightless birds had overrun farmland, ruining crops. Soldiers were sent with machine guns. The emus outran them. The birds dodged bullets, scattered in confusion, and evaded capture. After weeks, the humans gave up, and the scoreline remained emus 1, Australia 0. Number 23. The woman who gave birth to rabbits. In 1726, a poor English servant named Mary Toft convinced doctors she had given birth to rabbits. Midwives claimed to witness it. Surgeons took notes. Even King George I sent his own physician. But it was a hoax, a gruesome sleight of hand, rabbits inserted beforehand. She was exposed, but her tale lives on. A bizarre chapter where belief overpowered biology. Number 24. South of Mexico City, hidden in the canals of Xochimilco, lies a floating island draped with hundreds of decaying dolls. It began with one, hung by a man named Don Julian, after finding a drowned girl in the water. He said her spirit spoke to him, so he kept hanging dolls to please her. Now the wind makes them whisper, and their eyes seem to follow you. A tourist site, a shrine, or a warning. Only the dolls know. Number 25. The meteorite that hit a woman. In 1954, a space rock the size of a grapefruit crashed through the roof of a house in Alabama and struck a woman sleeping on her sofa. Her name was Anne Hodges. She survived with a bruise the shape of the cosmos. It remains the only recorded case of a human being directly struck by a meteorite. The stars came to visit, violently and uninvited. Number 26. The village that sleeps at sunset. In Kalachi, Kazakhstan, people began to fall asleep at strange times, mid-conversation, while walking, and even driving. Doctors were baffled. Some slept for days. The cause? A nearby abandoned uranium mine leaking carbon monoxide and hydrocarbons into the air. The entire village became a cradle. Number 27. The sunken forest of Lake Kandy. And whilst we're in Kazakhstan, let's take a trip high in the mountains to a lake that lies still and surreal. Its water is so cold, so pure, but the sunken trees beneath it remain upright, their trunks breaching the surface like wooden ghosts. The lake formed after an earthquake in 1911, flooding a spruce forest. Now it looks like a dream, or the remnants of a spell. A sunken forest, forever standing under glassy blue. Number 28. The stone spheres of Costa Rica. In the jungles of southern Costa Rica, hundreds of perfectly round stone spheres lie half buried in the earth. Some are as small as cannonballs, others the size of cars. No one knows who made them, or why. Were they markers, celestial maps, offerings, maybe? The jungle whispers, but does not answer. Number 29. The town built on stilts over water. In Gamvi, a town in the middle of Lake Nokaway in Benin, over 20,000 people live on houses built entirely on stilts. Fishermen navigate narrow canals with boats, markets float on rafts, and children learn to paddle before they walk. The town was founded by escapees fleeing slavery. Water became their refuge. Ganvi still thrives, a city afloat where the land is forever out of reach. Number 30. The Door to Hell. In the Karakum Desert of Turkmenistan, there is a pit, wide, round, and burning. In 1971, Soviet scientists were drilling for gas when the ground collapsed, forming a crater. To prevent poisonous gases from escaping, they set it on fire. They expected it to burn out in a few weeks, but it still burns today, 54 years later, and locals call it the door to hell. Number 31. MK Ultra. In the quiet corridors of Cold War America, a secret project unfolded under the codename MK Ultra. The CIA dosed unsuspecting citizens with LSD, hoping to unlock secrets of mind control. Some were drugged in brothels, others were observed through one-way mirrors. The government sought a truth serum. Instead, they found madness and left behind files filled with ethical nightmares. Number 32. The Real Computer Bug. In 1947, engineers working on the Harvard Mark II computer opened a relay and found a moth jammed between the wires. They taped it into their logbook and labelled it the first actual case of a bug being found, and so the term computer bug was born, from wings and dust into the digital age. Number 33. Moon Customs. When Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins returned from the moon, they had to fill out a US customs form. Declared items, moon rocks and dust. Departure point, the moon. Arrival, Honolulu. Even the cosmos, it seems, must respect bureaucracy. Number 34. Tesla's earthquake machine. Nikola Tesla once created a small oscillator, a mechanical device so powerful it could send vibrations through steel beams. He tested it on his New York lab. To his horror, nearby buildings began to shake, windows cracked. He smashed the device with a hammer and told his assistants to deny everything. He had accidentally built a machine that mimicked an earthquake. Number 35. The woman who survived falling from space. In 1963, cosmonaut Valentina Tereshkova became the first woman in space. During re-entry, her capsule spun violently out of control. She crash-landed in the Russian wilderness, bruised and bloodied, greeted by shocked villagers who had never seen a parachute or a woman from the stars. She smiled and asked for water. History had been made. Number 36. Einstein's brain on tour. After Albert Einstein's death in 1955, a pathologist removed his brain without permission, hoping to study its genius. The brain was dissected, sliced into pieces, and mailed across the country in jars and boxes, sometimes hidden in beer coolers or beneath floorboards. For decades, parts of Einstein's mind sat in filing cabinets, a scientific treasure turned wandering relic. Number 37. The scientist who invented a colour you can't own. Yves Klein created a blue so rich and so deep it seemed to pull the eye inward. He patented it as International Klein Blue, a colour of ultramarine dust suspended in resin. He painted canvases, bodies, sponges, all in this impossible hue. It's a colour you can see, but never truly replicate, a shade between dreams and void. Number 38. The Immortal Cells of Henrietta Lacks. In 1951, doctors took cancer cells from a woman named Henrietta Lacks, without asking. Those cells didn't die, they multiplied, and kept multiplying. They've been used in over 75,000 scientific studies, helping create vaccines, cancer treatments, even cloning. Henrietta passed, but part of her still lives in every lab, every petri dish, The woman who became immortal without knowing. Number 39. The clock that will chime for 10,000 years. Deep inside a Texas mountain, scientists and investors are building a clock. It ticks once per year, its hands move once a century, and it chimes once every 10,000 years. A symbol of long-term thinking, a reminder to slow down, look ahead, and build for those we will never meet. Number 40. The time capsule on the moon. Tucked inside the Apollo 11 lander is a tiny silicon disc, etched with goodwill messages from 73 world leaders. It's no bigger than a coin. It lies in the dust, untouched, beside footprints that will never fade. A whisper from Earth, left for no one. Number 41. The Pig War. It began with a pig. In 1859, on a tiny island between Canada and the US, an American farmer shot a British man's pig for rooting in his garden. Tempers rose, flags were raised, and troops arrived. Both nations nearly went to war, but in the end, no shots were fired, except the one at the pig. It remains the only casualty of the pig war, where diplomacy finally outweighed bacon. Number 42. The 38-minute war. It's the shortest war in recorded history. On August 27th, 1896, Britain issued an ultimatum to the Sultan of Zanzibar. He refused. At 9:02 a.m, the British opened fire. By 9:40 a.m, it was over. The Sultan's palace lay in ruins, his forces defeated, and a new ruler had already been chosen. 38 minutes, less time than it takes to watch a sitcom. Number 43. The War of the Whiskers. In the 14th century, England's King Henry III once imprisoned a nobleman simply for growing a beard. Facial hair was seen as rebellious, a symbol of independence. Over time, taxes were levied on moustaches, and laws passed against beards in certain courts. A war of culture fought at the chin. In some parts of history, a beard was treason. Number 44. The War of Jenkins's Ear. In 1731, a British captain named Jenkins claimed Spanish sailors cut off his ear during a naval skirmish. He returned to Parliament years later and produced the severed ear in a jar. Outraged, Britain declared war on Spain. It lasted 9 whole years, all over an ear, proof that body parts, when bottled, can spark empires to rage. Number 45. The Football War. In 1969, tensions between Honduras and El Salvador erupted, but the spark? A World Cup qualifying match. Fans rioted, national pride ignited. Within weeks, both countries were at war. Over 3,000 died in just 4 days. It wasn't really about football, but that's what the headlines said. Number 46. The Battle of the Buckets. In 1325, soldiers from Medina, Italy, stole a wooden bucket from a neighbouring city's well. The insult was unbearable. Bologna declared war. Thousands died, and Medina won and kept the bucket. Today it still hangs in a museum, a trophy from a war sparked by a pail of water. Number 47. The Whiskey Rebellion. In the 1970s, the US government imposed a tax on whiskey. Rural distillers refused to pay. An armed rebellion rose. George Washington sent 13,000 troops to crush it. The leaders were captured, then pardoned. The whiskey flowed again. Even in a young democracy, alcohol had power. Number 48. The Frozen War that Burned. In 1939, the Soviet Union invaded Finland, expecting an easy win. But Finnish soldiers moved like ghosts in the snow, clad in white, skis whispering across frozen lakes. With homemade Molotov cocktails, they disabled tanks, struck in silence, and vanished. It became known as the Winter War, and though Finland lost land, they won the world's respect. Number 49. The War of the Oaken Bucket. Yes, another war over a bucket. This one centuries older, and again in Italy. Buckets were sacred, apparently. In the Middle Ages, even a stolen container could send cities into years of battle. Perhaps it wasn't the bucket, but the pride inside it. Number 50. The fake army that fooled Hitler. In World War II, the Allies created a phantom army using inflatable tanks, fake radio chatter, and recorded marching sounds. It was called the Ghost Army, a unit of artists, actors, and engineers. They painted shadows, broadcast false orders, and convinced the Nazis that entire divisions were massing when none existed. They saved thousands of lives, with costume and illusion. Number 51. Rasputin wouldn't die. They poisoned him, cakes laced with cyanide. When that failed, they shot him in the chest. He stood back up. They shot him again, and again. Finally, they bound his hands and threw him into the freezing Neva River. When his body was found, his lungs were full of water. Grigory Rasputin, the mad monk, may have drowned while still alive. Even in death, he refused to behave. Number 52. The Plague Pit Whispers. In London, construction workers sometimes uncover mass graves stacked with victims of the Black Death. Over 100,000 were buried in haste, nameless and layered like sediment. They lie beneath playgrounds, car parks, and libraries. Every time one is opened, the bones tell stories of children, of priests, of fear. Time forgets, but the ground does not. Number 53. The Catacombs of Paris. Beneath the elegant streets of Paris lies a secret city. Over 6 million skeletons stacked in tunnels carved from old limestone quarries. Skulls line the walls in patterns. Femurs form crosses. It began in the 18th century when cemeteries overflowed. Now, visitors walk quietly through this ossuary, where silence clings like dust. You don't just visit the catacombs, you join the audience. Number 54. The Mummy That Screamed. Inside Egypt's royal tombs, archaeologists found a strange mummy, mouth wide open in terror, face twisted in agony. Unlike the others, this body had no proper burial rites. Some say he was a prince who tried to assassinate Pharaoh Ramses III. His punishment? Execution, disgrace, and an eternity with no name. Even in death, the scream still echoes. Number 55. The Corpse That Climbed a Mountain. In the thin air of the Andes, 22,000 feet above sea level, a 500-year-old girl sits frozen, her expression peaceful, her braids still intact. She was a child sacrificed to the Incan gods, drugged and left to the elements as an offering. Her body, perfectly preserved by the cold, feels more like sleep than death. They called her La Doncella, the maiden. She was given to the mountain, and it kept her. Number 56. Jeremy Bentham's Everlasting Presence. Philosopher Jeremy Bentham died in 1832, but asked to be preserved. Today, his clothed skeleton sits inside University College London in a cabinet called the Auto Icon. His real head, now too fragile, once sat between his feet. He still attends board meetings, and sometimes he even shows up on the minutes, present but not voting. Number 57. The Woman Who Outlived the Titanic. Violet Jessop, a stewardess and nurse, survived the Olympic when it collided with another ship. She survived the Titanic when it sank in icy waters. Then she survived the Britannic which hit a mine in World War I. 3 near-identical ships, 3 disasters. She lived through them all, calmly brushing her hair after each. They called her Miss Unsinkable. Even fate seemed to respect her. Number 58. The Bone Church of Sedlec. In a quiet Czech village, there is a church where the chandeliers are made of human bones. Over 40,000 skeletons arranged in pyramids, garlands, and skull-spiked arches. It began as an overflow of the Black Death and war, but a half-blind monk saw beauty in the remains and made art from mortality. The church whispers, "We are all the same in the end." Number 59. The man who dug his own grave and then lived in it. For over 50 years, a Colombian man named Jose Maria Cano has been carving his own grave by hand. Not out of fear, but love. He tends the tomb like a garden, painting it, sleeping near it, waiting for the day. Al hombre del sepulcro. He says, when you care for your grave, it cares for you. Number 60. The Lost Body of Mozart. When Wolfgang Mozart died in 1791, he was buried in a mass grave, a common practice in Vienna at the time. No stone, no name, no marker. Years later, someone claimed to retrieve his skull, but no one can prove that it's real. The man who gave us symphonies, requiems, and laughter vanished into the earth as quietly as a sigh. Number 61. The library that burned for 2,000 years. The Library of Alexandria, that fabled beacon of ancient knowledge, was lost to fire long ago, but its whispers still rise in scrolls carbonized by volcanic ash found in a villa near Pompeii. Buried by Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE, these scrolls look like charcoal, yet inside them words remain. Now, scientists use X-rays and AI to read the voices sealed inside. Perhaps one day the lost wisdom of Alexandria will speak again, not in flames, but in light. Number 62. The Exploding Whale of Oregon. In 1970, a dead whale washed up on the Oregon coast. 8 tons of rotting blubber baking in the sun. Officials had a plan. Dynamite. Crowds gathered, cameras rolled, but instead of scattering into the sea, the blast sent blubber raining from the sky, crushing cars and splattering onlookers. The explosion made headlines, and a lesson was learned. Some problems should be buried and not blown up. Number 63. The Great Stink of London. In the summer of 1858, the River Thames turned into a flowing sewer thick with human waste. The heat made it worse, a stench so foul it shut down Parliament. Curtains were soaked in lime, ministers fled. Only then did the city fund its first proper sewer system. Sometimes history doesn't change with revolution, but with a smell so bad the law holds its nose and acts. Number 64. The Girl Who Fell from the Sky and Lived. In 1971, 17-year-old Julianne fell 2 miles from the sky, still strapped to her seat. She survived with a broken collarbone and wandered the jungle for 11 days, drinking rainwater from leaves. She found rescue. The forest had swallowed the plane, but spared the girl. Number 65. The Town That Vanished into the Earth. Beneath Centralia, Pennsylvania, a coal seam fire began to burn in 1962, and it never stopped. Smoke poured from cracks in the ground, roads buckled, a boy fell into a sudden sinkhole caught only by tree roots. The town was evacuated. Today, fewer than 5 people remain above a fire that may burn for 250 years. Number 66. The volcano that built a new island. In 1963, off the coast of Iceland, the sea began to boil. A volcano erupted beneath the waves, and Circe was born. Overnight, it became the world's newest island, named after a Norse fire giant. France and Britain argued over who could claim it, but Iceland said, "It rose from our sea, so it's ours." Today, only scientists visit to watch life crawl across newborn land. Number 67. The Town That Froze in Time. Bodie, California was a gold rush boom town until the gold ran dry. People left in a hurry, leaving plates on tables, clothes in drawers, and coffins in the undertaker's parlour. Now it's preserved in arrested decay. Not restored, not forgotten. Some say it's cursed. Visitors who steal artefacts often mail them back with apology letters and stories of misfortune. Number 68. The Stone Forest That Grows No More. In Madagascar lies a stone forest, razor-sharp limestone towers rising like jagged trees from the earth. It's called the Singi de Bemaraha. Few dare walk it without shoes reinforced like armour, but inside life hides, lemurs, orchids, and creatures untouched by time. A forest not of wood, but of silence and stone. Number 69. The world's oldest living tree. In the White Mountains of California stands a bristlecone pine over 4,800 years old. It sprouted before the pyramids were built, before paper, before language had settled. It has seen every empire rise and fall. Its location is secret to protect it. Somewhere in the mountains, a tree watches us and remembers what we've forgotten. Number 70. The Orphan Train Riders. From 1854 to 1929, America sent over 200,000 orphans westward on what were called orphan trains. They stopped at towns like auctions. Children lined up, inspected, chosen. Some found love, some found labour. Most never saw their birthplaces again. A migration of the forgotten, bound by rails and hope. Number 71. The Saint Who Carried His Head. In 3rd century Paris, Saint Denis was beheaded for preaching Christianity, but according to legend, he picked up his head and walked. Mouth still moving, he preached repentance with every step. He walked 6 miles before collapsing. A church was built on the spot, and to this day, he is the patron saint of headaches. Number 72. The Lost Colony of Roanoke. When John White returned to Roanoke Island in 1590, the colony had vanished. No bodies, no sign of struggle. Only one word carved into a tree, Croatoan. No one knows what it meant. Were they adopted by native tribes? Killed? Fled inland? The first American mystery, still unsolved. Number 73. The Girl Who Turned to Glass. In 1839, newspapers told of a young English girl whose skin began to stiffen and crack like porcelain. Each limb locked, her body turned rigid. Doctors had no explanation. Modern researchers now suspect fibrodysplasia, a condition where soft tissue slowly turns to bone. She was becoming a statue, one breath at a time. The disease is real, and the legend remains. Number 74. The Books That Bled Poison. In the 19th century, some bookbinders used emerald green pigment made with arsenic. The covers were bright, beautiful, and deadly. Librarians fell ill, collectors began to die. Today they're known as poison books. Some are sealed behind glass, and some may still even be on shelves. Number 75. The Skeleton That Solved a Shipwreck. In 2016, off the coast of Antikythera, Greece, archaeologists found a 2,000-year-old skeleton inside a sunken Roman ship. It was named Pamphilos. the first ancient shipwreck victim whose DNA was successfully extracted. Not just bone, but identity. A name reborn from the deep, whispered through science, salt, and time. Number 76. The cannonball still lodged in a castle. At Edinburgh Castle, Scotland, a cannonball from the 1745 Jacobite rebellion still sits lodged in the stone wall. They never removed it. It's not a relic, it's a scar. Visitors pass it every day, a reminder that even stone remembers when kings fall and walls tremble. Number 77. The bridge that collapsed from rhythm. In 1831, a British platoon marched across the Broughton Suspension Bridge in perfect step. Their synchronized rhythms set the bridge swaying until it snapped. The army fell into the water. No one died, but from that day on, soldiers were ordered to break step on bridges. Even rhythm, it seems, has power. Number 78. The postman who built a palace by hand. Every day, Ferdinand Cheval, a French postman, walked 30 kilometres delivering mail. One day, he tripped over a strange rock, a shape so beautiful it gave him a dream. For the next 33 years, he gathered stones and built a palace, by hand, alone, and with no training. It stands to this day, a surreal structure of towers, grottos, and creatures carved from imagination. He called it his Palais Ideal, a monument to wonder, built from chance and stubbornness. Number 79. The spy who wrote in lemon juice. During the American Revolution, loyalist spies wrote invisible messages between the lines of ordinary letters. The ink? Lemon juice. Only heat would reveal the hidden text, a candle's glow, a fire's breath. Secrets moved across borders, invisible to the eye. Even citrus became a tool of rebellion. Number 80. The chicken that lived without a head. In 1945, a farmer in Colorado beheaded a chicken, but missed a key artery. The bird, named Mike, survived. He lived for 18 months, fed with a dropper through the open neck. That is horrendous. He toured the country, became a celebrity, and died by choking on mucus. Even headless, life finds a way, for a time. 80 stories, 80 strange echoes, some lost, some found, and some still hiding in the folds of time. From cataclysms to comedy, saints to sinners, whispers to wars. History is not just what was written, it's what was felt, forgotten, dug up again under moonlight. If these tales sang to you in the quiet, leave a like on this video, subscribe, and when we next meet, the candle will be lit, the tales waiting, and time will slow once more. Sleep well, dream strange, and good night.